Welcome to Sahara's kombucha making workshop. In this lesson, you should be able to describe the steps of kombucha making, formulate your own kombucha, and assess the safety of your kombucha once it's ready to drink. So what is kombucha? It is an ancient beverage originating from China and made from fermented tea. It's recently become very popular with hundreds of brands on the market. The equipment you'll need is a water boiler, some paper towels, a pH meter or pH paper, a tea strainer, a large mason jar, a spoon, and of course snap top bottles. To make kombucha, you'll need a SCOBY, some liquid from the SCOBY called a starter, some vinegar if you don't have any starter liquid, sugar, tea, and of course water. So what's in that greasy pancake that I described as a SCOBY? Well, it's simply yeast and bacteria. The yeast is typically Saccharomyces, and the bacteria is either Acetobacter or Lactobacillus, although there can be other species present. The yeast produce the CO2, while the bacteria make vinegar and other things that flavor the drink. Your first step is brewing about 5 or 6 tea bags worth of tea. This can be green or black tea. Only fill it about halfway. This will allow you to add cool water later in order to cool it down more rapidly. After it's steeped for about 10 minutes, add cold water until the volume is about 1.5 liters. Measure out 1 cup of sugar and add this to your brew. Now add half a cup to a cup of your starter or apple cider vinegar. Stir thoroughly. Check your pH. The pH should be below 5 to prevent the growth of botulism, but it shouldn't be much less than 3. Once you've added enough vinegar or starter to get to your optimum pH, add the SCOBY. Cover your jar with paper towels and set it in a cool area for a couple weeks. During these weeks, the yeast will convert the sugar into ethanol and CO2, while the bacteria will convert the ethanol into acetic acid or vinegar. The conversion of sugar into ethanol is anaerobic, meaning it does not require oxygen, while the conversion of ethanol into acetic acid is aerobic, meaning it needs oxygen. Because of this, if you completely seal your jars, you won't have any oxygen, and you'll be stuck with a lot of ethanol and CO2, which will basically make booze instead of kombucha. Your jars might also explode from all the built-up pressure from the CO2. After a few weeks, your old SCOBY will fall to the bottom, and a new SCOBY will grow on the top layer. This is the most important pH check. If it's over about 4.6, you could have botulism in it, and you really shouldn't drink it. But if it's under 2, you could actually give yourself a stomach ulcer or blood acidosis. The sweet spot is between 3 and 4. For the secondary fermentation, I'm going to use fruit juice because I want some extra flavor. So I'm going to fill it about half kombucha and half fruit juice. Since the fruit juice is also acidic, it shouldn't interrupt the pH too much. If you don't want to use fruit juice, just use 2 tablespoons of sugar per gallon of kombucha. Pour your mixture into some snap top bottles. You'll seal these for a couple weeks for the secondary fermentation. Unlike the first fermentation, which is aerobic, the second fermentation is anaerobic. Because of this, it'll produce CO2 and a teeny bit of alcohol rather than the vinegar produced in the first fermentation. After a couple weeks, your kombucha is ready to drink. You can do another pH check here, but since the secondary fermentation doesn't produce much vinegar, your pH shouldn't have decreased much. Answer and submit these questions to test your knowledge of kombucha. Why do you need vinegar if you don't have starter liquid? Why doesn't the first fermentation make bubbly kombucha? Make up a recipe for kombucha that uses a different type of tea or fruit than the one in the video. The final pH of my kombucha is 5.6. Should I drink it? You drank some kombucha that tasted really tart, and your stomach felt bad afterwards. What happened? How could you avoid this?